what gets played up in the media, and the reason we all love March Madness so much, and we love conference tournaments because we like to see, right, Delaware flirt with stealing a bid as a 12 and 19. But when March Madness comes and we have the bracket, all you hear about are the upsets. Oh, will a 12 beat a 5? Will a 13 beat a 4? Oh my God, a 16 to 1. I know you know that very well. So the upsets get all the hype. But once you get to the business end of the tournament,
once you strike midnight, Cinderella has left the ball.
The formula tells you that. It's like, no, these are the only teams that ever win it. He is kind enough to join us for not one segment, not two, but even three, for God's sakes. He's the only back-to-back winner of the Hilton SuperContest, and boy, did we learn something about him this morning, which I cannot wait to get into. It's Steve Fezzik, everybody. How you doing, man?
I am excellent. Intro music?
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Fezzik Fridays.
Whether it's at the Sportsbook or anywhere else in the casino, he's always helping us find an edge. It's time for Fezzik Fridays.
I love that you remembered your intro music and you demand that it be played.
Well, I stepped on my music not once but twice, and Gil admonished me.
Yes.
And he's like, Stevie, you can't talk until the music goes.
Yeah, I botched that. Good for you. Thank you for remembering. Okay, so I want to get into all that stuff. And by the way, for those who missed it, we had Mike Renner on earlier talking NFL draft. He was once on The Bachelorette, so we briefly talked about it. And then I get this text from Steve a little after that on the show, but while we're here on the air, and he says, oh yeah, he just casually mentions, oh yeah, I was on Love Connection in 1993. Okay, so we have to get into this. Have you ever talked about this before?
No.
Okay, let's not get into it right now. Let's wait a segment because college basketball tips off in about 13 minutes. So let's talk about what you're betting this morning and why.
So I have basic strategy this time of year. Early start times, groggy. I'm groggy. The players are groggy. The fans are groggy. The stadium is half filled. So I love first half unders. So we have a game that goes at 8:30 Pacific time, St. Bonnie's VCU. So we're on the under in that game. That's the first start time. And I am
It's a go.
It's a go. Go. We are betting under first half under. I don't know what the current number is because I was driving in under 61 VCU St. Bonnie's. And I also played Oregon, Michigan State first half under 66. That's a 9 a.m. start time. And of course, a game that's on everybody's radar screen, the Kennesaw State Liberty game under. I got 65. I think the market number is right around there. First half under 65 right now.
Can you give the rotation number since you always blast others for not giving them?
I can, Gilly. Mm-hmm. So we've got game 822 is the Liberty game, 814 is Oregon, and 806 is VCU. But these are, if you have them chronologically, they're the first three games chronologically, and they're high up on the top of the betting board as well.
Did you have a fourth, or you decided you didn't want to do
I'm going to go with those three. The fourth would be Atlantic 10, St. Louis Loyola under 64.
Okay, let's go back to that premise, which is it's early in the morning. Body clock stuff, but it's super early in the morning. Gyms or the arenas are not full. People lollygag into these, and that's a theory. Is it backed up with numbers in your experience?
Yes, but we have to be careful because inevitably what happens is that these things get bet. So if you grade them against the closing number, you don't do as well as when you go ahead and bet them earlier in the betting cycle. Another thing that benefits this is a time of year, big dance and conference tournaments. The normal model of like if you have a total that's 130, you make the first half 61, the second half 69. In general, if you gun to your head, you'd want to play first half unders, second half overs, because teams will oftentimes foul to the bitter end. They'll extend the game. You'll get some higher scoring second halves, but the first halves, teams tend to play a little bit tighter and more careful.
Okay, and the first of these games is the St. Bonaventure game, you said?
Yeah, St. Bonnie's VCU.
Which tips off in 11 minutes, at least by the clock, but you get the idea. It'll be here soon. So the under in that one, you said you got 62. I ended up with 61.5. Not quite as favorable, but okay. Let's play it. Let's do it.
Go.
Let's go. So 3 plays there early from Stevie. The other thing that we get this time of year in college basketball is, and this is, let me just, I have to preface this by saying, because I sort of alluded to it earlier, it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't talk about it much because if I do talk about it, it sounds like I'm going after people. Right? And unlike you, Stevie, I don't really enjoy going after people like as much as you do on Twitter, and we know how you are on Twitter. That's a whole other story.
That's my evil twin.
Yeah, that's right. But the pet peeve is, because like when I do tennis tournaments, and this, by the way, Indian Wells was a little bit of an exception because but it's not all outrights. I only have one outright, right, on the men's and the women's side. I did do quarter bets. It's actually more outrights than I usually have, but they're not all outrights to win the tournaments. They're quarters, so it's not the same markets. But typically, and whenever I'm doing a tennis tournament, I will always have outrights confined to one play, right? And you get a cottage industry of folks who, March Madness is a great example to bring this up. I don't love talking about it, but I know you hate this, where they have a million outrights. A million might be an exaggeration, but you get the idea.
Yeah, because it's fun. It's great content. It's like 1990s movie reference, Running Man. So Richard Dawson is Killian. He's the evil guy. And it's like at some point, I'm listening to all these shows and these content providers that are like Killian, and it's wildly entertaining. But I almost feel like I want to put like Schwarzenegger does, a big sign. Killian is lying to you. No one is winning playing these 4-to-1s, 8-to-1s, 14-to-1s. Famously, Gilly, you have your formula that says only 4 teams, 3.5 if you count Iowa State,
right? Yeah.
Can win the national championship. So suddenly, and on our group text, Todd and I are fighting, and I'm like, VCU, Todd, is not winning the national championship. And he's like, oh, you just earn off of it down the road. Yeah. If they make like the Sweet 16, you can win like 30% by playing back the other guys on the favorites. Otherwise, and if they don't make it, you lose your unit. It's just such a terrible wager. The sportsbooks have huge vig, and guess where all that vig is backed into? It's not the favorites that are terrible odds. It's these dogs that should be paying. Famously, well, there's one year Michigan State made the finals, and if you played the mechanical parlay, it would have paid 150 to 1. They lost because they lost in the finals, I think, to Florida. But they were like 50 to 1, and people were tweeting the I got Sparty 50 to 1. It's like you got short paid. You should have, if you had just played them to make the Final Four, you get almost the same.
Yeah, it's and it's just simple math of. Let's say you do hit one. Let's say you have 15 different futures. And by the way, we know people who do have like tons of futures. Okay, let's say you hit an 18 to 1. You don't like the fact that you would take a victory lap on that is mathematically incorrect, right?
Exactly. Now let me back up and be fair. There are people like if you grabbed Iowa State back in November before everyone knew how good they were.
And the number is huge.
And you're getting 90 to 1 on whatever
That's
it was.
a different story.
On a number 2 seed. Yeah. Totally different. We're talking today. Betting futures today. You won't win. You will not win following the sharpest people in the world because you know what? The market demands it. They're asking for it. And so they give it out. It's content.
Yeah. Again, for me, it's a little awkward because it always sounds like when someone brings it up, if they don't like you and they think you're going after someone, they'll tell you, oh, he's going after you. I'm not going after people. I'm just saying as a rule, there's way too much of that.
And look at Connecticut, that dominant run. If you bet Connecticut 4 to 1, that actually turned out to be a great bet. So think about how terrible all the other teams were to bet. Yeah. Because Connecticut's like laying 8, laying 10 against all these teams, minus 325, no vig favorite in the last 4 games.
Yeah, and the point of that formula, again, the college basketball formula, the point of it is that yes, March Madness, and this is what gets played up, right? What gets played up in the media, and the reason we all love March Madness so much, and we love conference tournaments because we like to see, right, Delaware flirt with stealing a bid as a 12 and 19. But when March Madness comes and we have the bracket, all you hear about are the upsets. Oh, will a 12 beat a 5? Will a 13 beat a 4? Oh my God, a 16 to 1. I know you know that very well. Will 16 to 1, historically, these only happened twice now. Will those things happen? And yes, okay, in round 1 and round 2, these things do happen. Obviously, round 2, 8s will beat 1s and that kind of thing. So the upsets get all the hype. But once you get to the business end of the tournament.
Once you strike midnight, Cinderella has left the ball.
The formula tells you that. It's like, no, these are the only teams that ever win it.
Yes.
With the exception of the
Connecticut, Kevin Ollie.
Right, you know the story. So, but that's the thing. And so that's why, and I know that bothers you because you hear so much of that. And you're right. It's a lot of that is driven by the fact that we have to fill, not we, but all folks fill content, and it makes for interesting conversation.
Wildly entertaining.
But if it's not really realistic,
it's good for filling out brackets. It's fun to fill out brackets and who's going to get to the final four.
Brackets are a different story because and some brackets are upset rewarded. So
and
you
get a million people in those brackets too.
And you should be picking upsets in brackets. But we're just talking about the outrights itself, the team that lands at the top of the hill. Right, and totally different story. You said we should probably say that. If you're getting 90 to 1s and 80 to 1s, like Jim Root has tickets where they're massive inflated numbers, that's a different story.
Absolutely.
That's a different story. All right, we'll get back, because Steve has one more pet peeve, which he alluded to there briefly, which has to do with some other gambling cottage industry that is promoted in content that you don't love either, which should burst the bubble for some on that. We'll get to that. But Love Connection 1993, you've never told this story before. This is amazing. You've never told it before?
Yeah, I won on Love Connection.
You won?
Yeah, I won.
And you had a date.
Yes.
All right, we got to find out all about this. I have so many questions. Steve Fezzik, add me to the list of Super Bowl of Sports Trivia alums. Hey, how about that? We got a lot of listeners spin on stuff. Did the second season in 1989 while a student at Penn State, all before Jeopardy. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And one quiz show set at one of Donald Trump's casinos. A degenerative game show guy I am. Trip Tepper, to add to the numbers game rando reality TV theme today. I was on ESPN Stump the Schwab in 2005. Oh, the great Howie Schwab, may rest in peace. While in graduate school, I didn't win, but just making the show was an accomplishment since the vetting process by ESPN was rigorous. Tom Mass tells us no Somich, NHC, by the way. Clarification, Mike Somich not in the horse racing contest. The James Lloyd, thank God for VSiN. The worldwide leader has been talking about the same thing for at least 30 minutes. You definitely have the best gig. No doubt. Margin Call. Love Connection. Fez, this is great. Oh, yeah. And Mr. Postman 619 says, Gil, you missed the opportunity to say we'll be back in 2 and 2. Oh, I was getting to that. But we got to have the conversation first. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Fezzik, the only back-to-back winner of the Hilton Super Contest, Twitter menace, and all around, helpful guy on the radio here, giving us great gambling talk each and every week here on the show and on other parts of the network. Casually text when Mike Renner, because Stevie can't let Mike Renner have all the attention. So he's like, oh, by the way, I was on Love Connection in 1993. Let's go back to the beginning. First of all, how old were you and how did this happen?
So it's 93. My goodness, I'm gotten old. I'm 30. My buddy Dan, professional bettor in Huntington Beach, talked me into filling out the questionnaire. He wanted to be on. So we filled out the questionnaire at some local casino, and they picked me. So
what's on the questionnaire?
What celebrity do you most look like? I went Alec Baldwin. Thank goodness he got fat, so it was more appropriate.
Okay, you went Alec Baldwin, so they're like, you're in.
Apparently so. And then Chuck Woolery hates me. I'm talking about Jeopardy and basic strategy and Final Jeopardy.
This is while you're on the show or before?
On the show. I'm on the show with Chuck Woolery after I'm picked. And I can tell Chuck is like, this guy thinks he looks like Alec Baldwin. He's talking about Jeopardy. How do we let this guy on my show?
What do you say about Jeopardy?
That the geniuses are dummies when it goes to Final Jeopardy. They have no idea what to wager. And famously, Jeopardy James, 20 years later, came up with this strategy. And I said, yeah, everyone knows this. And people are like, oh, Fezzik, the great aggregator, you didn't know about this. I was like, hey, I talked about Love Connection in 1993. Come on.
Did you call them Dumbos by any chance at the time?
I think I didn't use Dumbo, that term, back in 93.
So Chuck Woolery hates you as you're doing
me, and
this
is going south big time.
Okay. He seemed real pleasant, by the way. All right, and so remind everybody the format of Love Connection. So were you pumped to go on the show? Were you excited?
Yeah, it was fun, but I'm nervous. I'm like, am I going to be a Dumbo? And so I get to pick one of the three bachelorettes, whatever. So I pick one, and a miracle of miracles. I got to give credit to the pool of people there, because they're trying to match people that you may be able to make a connection. The gal I pick actually likes me.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, I know.
What was her name again?
Karen Eskegian in Los Angeles, and she was a cutie, and I'm like, I'm out kicking my coverage. This is going to be a disaster, and we just hit it off really well. And
so you go on a date?
And we have a great date. Yeah.
Where'd you go?
So we just went to it might have been the Santa Monica. It's been so many years, okay? But like that walking area in Santa Monica. It's in West LA.
The pier? The Santa Monica Pier?
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Oh, you're talking about the promenade.
It's very casual, our date and the like. And then we went back. I was living in South Pasadena, and we came back, and nothing happened, but we had a good time. And so I showed her my place at South Pasadena, and Chuck Woolery says, show her your place, huh? Yeah, no doubt. So she comes out after Woolery's ready to throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
And she's like, I really like Steve, and Woolery's got this look on his face like, what's wrong with this girl?
So you have the one date and that was it?
No, we went out like 3 times, and it was just an example. It's so hard to find someone that's a good partner because what the kiss of death was. I met up with her friends who were ultra liberal, and I'm like a conservative Midwestern guy, and it was just too much of a culture clash.
I see.
Between us because of that. But she's great, yeah.
Okay, so but Woolery never uttered the word, so I guess we don't have a connection here because he couldn't say that because you did have a connection.
There was a connection,
yeah,
so he couldn't say that.
Wow,
yeah,
unbelievable. Now here's the real question,
I won.
Steve.
I won.
You won.
I won.
But it's such a weird show because you won in quotes. You don't win anything, right?
I think they gave you $50 for the date or something.
Yeah, you won her affection for a brief period of time.
Yeah.
So, is there footage of this anywhere?
It was
We've
August.
got to find this.
I'm going to put out a bounty, right? It's like McCracken and Slapshot. I'm putting out $100 bounty. Anyone who can find it was August plus or minus a month of 1993. My real name's Steve Fezzik, Karen Eskegian. If you can find a clip of this, all right? If you can find the show, I will give you $300. That was the bounty in Slapshot. If you can provide me you remember that when you put the bounty on McCracken, yes.
$300. We're trying to find Todd Wright on remote control, but more importantly, we're trying to find Fezzik on Love Connection in 1993. This is gold, Jerry. This would be gold. Oh my God! How have we never stumbled on this before?
It's been so long, I'd forgotten about it basically.
A young Steve Fezzik. Were you dressed properly? I joked that you were sleeveless when you were on there.
I probably was wearing a Treasure Island sweatshirt. I probably wasn't dressed properly and the like. And like I said, I don't even remember where the date was. I just remember, I remember I just moved into my place in South Pasadena. So maybe it was July of 1993, and I had boxes everywhere. I didn't I didn't even have a proper, abode.
Does the wife know about this?
No.
She doesn't know?
Yeah.
No, keep it quiet.
That in the cute.
Yeah. She kind of tunes in, says things about the buttons on my shirt, so maybe she's just hearing this.
Yeah, so she'd love. But by the way, so she's always like, got to tell your friend Gilly, like, don't be showing the cleavage.
It's the shirt where the button lies. Wait, so she doesn't know this? You've never told her this before?
No.
What would she think about this? Would she think you're a big dork for being on this?
Yeah, because she's a very private person. She's like, what are you doing?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Did you and Karen Eskegian keep in touch, or that was that? A couple dates and then done?
We did not keep in touch, but it was as good a parting as you will ever. That's the great thing. You only go out 3 times, or 4 times. You never. It's no breakup. It was just a great gal.
I feel compelled to ask you: were you on? Because this is the time to know. I don't want to find something out later. Were you on any other game shows ever?
That's the only one, other than in 4th grade, I was on in Dayton, Ohio. There was the Duffy the Dog show. I was a Cub Scout.
Okay. Steve Fezzik, Love Connection.
Clubhouse 22.
Oh, man, this is fan. We got to find this. 300. You want to up that bonus or that?
No,
that
300 is
bounty?
the number in Slapshot, and I'm not going to inflation adjust it.
Okay, somebody please find this. All right, the other thing that bothers you. Do we have time for this? You want to go to a different topic?
No, we got time.
All right, the other thing that bothers you that we hear a lot of in sports betting is?
The Moneyline mechanical parlay. So we don't bet the Dumbo future. Instead, we'll just keep wheeling the money over. So we start with $100. We bet VCU to win the tournament. Boom. We cash at the end of the first round. We take all that money. We reinvest it all the way through. And so now instead of getting paid 100 to 1, we'll get paid 200 to 1 or whatever it is. All right. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem with the mechanical parlay is Kelly Criterion. So for serious bettors, Kelly Criterion demands I'm only supposed to be betting like 1 to 3% of my bankroll on any one play. Right. So that's great when I start out with the 1 unit. But by the time my team makes the Elite 8, and now I got 10 units in my pocket, I'm not betting 10 units on plus 200 money.
I'm so glad you're talking about this. I'm so glad you're saying this because this is, there's a cottage industry of folks who love, and sometimes they're being sincere, but there is another group who they want to sound smarter than you. So instead of playing your future, I could have done this. By the way, we had one with Belinda Bencic here in the tennis tournament. She didn't get there. She got 1 match short, sadly. But, you could have gotten 11 to 1 instead of 6 to 1, right? In the end, if you had Moneyline parlayed it, right?
Yes.
This mechanical parlay. There's also, by the way, another pitfall to this that we never bring up, which is really a simple human thing. Some people want to bet it and then they just want to forget about it. Most people aren't going to remember. Like my buddy Tommy in D.C., he's not going to remember to bet it every round.
And that's a great point. And I talked to Stormy about this. I am not the betting police. If you want to bet $10 or $15 on the Chicago Cubs to win the World Series every year, it's fine, So absolutely, go ahead and it's recreation. You're not trying to win. You're just having fun. And there's nothing wrong with having fun, considering you can spend $10,000 for a booth right here at Circa next Friday. I will not be spending the $10,000 myself, but that's what the market price is for a booth for one day.
I'm so glad you said it because there's theory, right? We can sit here on a weekday morning and talk about theory, but then there's reality and actual practice. And you're right, when you get to the quarters and you have that pile of money, theoretically, then you're actually making a bet with that pile of money. And that's a different
And the
story.
truth is you're going to take your 2% of Bankroll, you're going to take the rest of that money and stuff it in your pockets and bet whatever Wishnev tells you to bet live, and you're going to take 2% and bet.
More Fez on the other side. We get tweets at Beating the Book, always appreciated. So many tweets there, including some listener questions, by the way, for you, Fez. Let's see, this is Brian Grierson. This is absolute gold. Is there any way to track down this brave woman and get her side of the story and a recollection of the biggest date night in VSiN history? That is a great point. What would Kathy, what's her last name?
Karen Eskegian.
Karen Eskegian. What would she say about all this? Let's see. Drew from Boise. Gil, game show listener trivia. I was part of youngest couple on primetime dating game winning Bachelor number 3 as a college freshman in 1974. Oh, he's on the dating game. Hey, Jim Lang. I used to work in a studio next to Jim Lang in San Francisco.
Really?
What a nice man he was.
Farrah Fawcett was on the dating game. She looked fantastic.
Wait, seriously? She was on?
Yes.
Farrah Fawcett was the first person that made me feel funny. You know what I mean? I couldn't really identify the feeling. Cancer-free from stage 4 NHL since May 2nd. Congratulations to you, sir. Says, I did Super Bowl of Sports Trivia in 1989. Won 2 shows and lost in the semis. Hardest part was taping the show in Oxnard in July. Not exactly football weather. Was also on Sports on Tap in 95, Sports Geniuses in 2000. Hosted by the MLB Network's Matty Vasgersian. I have copies of all. Good for you. Nemesis Enforcer. Fez rises to the top of my list, making Woolery's bad side. Number 1, get the money racing. Someone has to find this Love Connection episode of Fezzik. What an incredible segment. Dying laughing. Joe C. Steve ghosted me on my DM to him. Please vouch for me and let him know I'm good people, Gil. LOL. Joe C. Great guy, by the way. Don't block
Send him my phone number.
Oh, phone number. Okay.
Yep.
Mark Francis. Gil, hilarious story about Fez on Love Connection. Please do remind the listeners that Rodney Alcala made it on the dating game. Is that a reference to something? I might have missed that. And Natrone bets, not Natrone means, but Natrone bets. The flip side of this mechanical rollover parlays, I was able to bank some of the benchage profits before the loss to Keys. There's pros and cons for sure. Yeah, but that goes against the initial premise of why you're doing it. So you're right, but that doesn't justify the initial then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then Rich PSM. I was also on Love Connection 1985. I was picked. They gave us $100. We agreed, in quotes, to continue, but Chuck, R.I.P., kept saying, "Are you sure?" laughing. It fizzled out. She was geographically undesirable in his case. All right, we have a listener question. Somebody asked yesterday, because you famously, I think you texted in yesterday, and you said you are laying the money line on Duke. How did you feel when Cooper Flagg went out and Duke was struggling?
I was thinking my spot would be canceled. So famously, I lost $80,000 betting Purdue as a 23-point favorite. And really, it's interesting because 23 is like the magic number where you rise above a 99% chance of winning. And so I didn't have a lot of Duke yesterday, but I laid I think minus 4,500. But I haven't lost a big one since then. So it's been 2 years. So things are working out, and it really isn't so much the number 1 seeds, which famously are 156-2 in the first round. But I'm not going to bet a number 1 seed on the money line if they're only laying 19. They got to be laying 23 or more.
Frankie in Vegas has a go. Frankie Vegas has a question. Love the show. Thanks. Could you ask Fez to explain the proper formula? He asked this earlier. When laddering bets, props, he says. Please have him use light math. I failed second semester of calculus.
Yeah, so what's going on with this ladder, as most of you know, of course, it's like when you bet some dude to have over 5.5 pass receptions. Hey, let's play over 6.5 plus 130, over 7.5 plus 175, over 9.5 plus 240, and just ladder a whole bunch of bets, okay? So this is very complicated stuff. I believe to do this correctly, you're supposed to use like a Poisson distribution. I'm not even sure if that's the case. But in general, the people that are serious about that, they don't just blindly ladder it. They know how much each reception is worth, and they try to find the one that's optimal and bet the most on that, but they'll bet a little bit, they'll bet less on the other ones. But the whole concept, if you're directionally right, you're obviously going to make money, and you can make a lot of money if you're really right.
Hope that helps, Frankie Vegas. Real quick, our G-Bank best bets of the day, because I want to talk to Fez about a couple more things. G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. I have added another baseball bet. I am on the Twins was the monthly, March, April. I added the New York Mets race to 10 wins at 17-1 this morning. The New York Metropolitans race to 10 wins, 17-1. So I have a monthly, March, April on the Twins, and now even shorter of a runway, 10 wins for the New York Mets. That would be lovely to thread the needle on both, now wouldn't it? Again, the Mets got the Marlins for 6th and the A's in there as well in that opening stretch.
Now, the fascinating thing about the Mets bet is you talk about they had 3 against the Astros, I believe, to
at
start the year.
Yes.
And you're saying, 1 and 2 maybe, but then the cupcake schedule. The interesting thing is you really need them to go 2-1 against the Astros, because if they do start 1 and 2, boy, they're going to have to run the table then.
Well, there's a table to be run.
They could go 3-0 against the
I was
Astros.
just doing
it could happen.
I was doing a worst case.
Yeah.
Paul Carr, Nottingham Forest tomorrow at Ipswich Town. He's taking Nottingham Forest at minus 105. And then on Sunday, Arsenal Chelsea under 2.5 goals. Leicester City Man U over 2.5 goals. Premier League picks from Paul Carr. Christopher Felica. He had a couple college basketball bets and then a couple season longs in Major League Baseball. He is on both UCLA and Boise State, each catching a point in respective games in the Big Ten and the Mountain West today. UCLA getting a point versus Wisconsin, Boise State getting a point versus New Mexico, and then 2 season longs in Major League Baseball. Wyatt Langford to win AL MVP at 70-1. Will Wagner to win the American League Rookie of the Year at 15-1. And then Fezzik gave us some first half unders in college hoops. We left off the one that's already started, the St. Bonnie's game. I don't know what kind of start you're out there. We'll have to check the score. Oregon, Michigan State, first half under 66.5, and then Kennesaw State and Liberty, first half under 66 from Fezzik. Once again, G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. Every show, every host, every guest, all their picks recapped at the end of every show here at VSiN. And don't forget, with G-Bank, of course, always offering amazing things, including upping the ante with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. First, new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from account opening receive a $250 bonus. In addition, if you spend $50,000 on gaming and sports app loads within the 30 days of account opening, you'll receive another $500 bonus. That's potentially a $750 bonus. Apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSiN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. By the way, update to the Players' Championship. Moments ago when I looked, Rory McIlroy had shot 5 under on the on his first 9. It's not the front 9. He started on the back 9, but 5 under to go to 10 under for the tournament, second round of the Players' Championship, and he had the lead momentarily. But now Min Woo Lee is your leader. Min Woo Lee is 7 under through 14 today, 12 under for the tournament. These guys are shooting a cartoon score at this point. Min Woo Lee at 12 under, still playing his round. Rory's 1 back at 11 under. He's through 12. And J.J. Spawn, a co-leader in the first round, he's 2 back at 10 under. He's through 14. So those guys are really setting the mark. Biggest name behind that group, Colin Morikawa right now in 5th at 7 under, 5 back of the lead.
And a BCU update, we are pretty close to on pace. We're 1 point faster than I would like. It's last I checked, I'm 45 seconds behind. 16-13, a little more than 10 minutes left, but only 3 and 4 fouls, which is very favorable.
Yes.
If you're going to bet live, you need to know the fouls on each team. And so when you're 10 minutes into a first half and you see only 3 and 4 fouls on each team, that's very favorable to the under.
It's all about the fouls, which is why I know guys who bet half times, and I'm like, you're missing the point on the fouls.
And you really should, if you're betting sides, you really should know the possession arrow. It's actually worth half a point to have the possession arrow, and no one even pays attention to it, but I can tell you the most serious bettors do.
All right, real quick, rapid fire. The importance of exchanges. at this time of year.
Yeah, whenever there's tons of liquidity in the market, and this is going to happen with March Madness, you're going to be able to bet like minus 102 at ProfitX or some of these other exchanges like Sporttrade, etc. So laying minus 110, you're not going to win laying minus 110. I don't care if you've got the best experts in the world. If you're laying minus 110 the day of the game on March Madness Big Dance and you're making your biggest bets of the year, you're making a huge mistake. However, if you like a side and you're betting minus 101, think about this. If you can pick 50.5%, you got the edge.
And generally speaking, big dance lines are efficient, but something like the NIT is less efficient.
Yeah, so the pros that I know are betting way more on select NIT sides and totals. Because think about this. Every team is ultra motivated in the big dance. Not so much in the NIT.
Last thing before we go, and I love, you say this every year, I love this advice. I don't think I've ever said it on the air. You believe that people should bet like $5, $10, whatever it is, on every MLB season win total. Why?
Yeah, not just MLB, but football also, college football. Bet $10 over under on every single team. Why? Because this will anchor your knowledge of each and every team, and you will learn about that team more than any other team you could ever imagine, because you've got skin in the game, so you're paying attention every night to each and every final score.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.